Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Compassion Project. I'm your hostess, Dr. Danielle Lord, and this is where we have conversations about institutionalized trauma. And in order to move beyond it, we have to recognize it, call it out, and begin to have conversations about it so we can all begin to collectively heal. So in order to do that, the end goal is to create a compassion evolution. And I say evolution because it should be slow, sustained, and long-term with great and powerful and beneficial impacts for everyone. Because we can't take care of ourselves. We can't take care of others until we're taking care of ourselves. And that's why we have to begin to and continue to have these conversations. So today I'm happy to welcome my guest, Edward Moseley, host of the Moseley Method podcast. And today we're going to be talking about workplace wounds and community scars. What is the role of leadership in our collective recovery? So welcome to my friend, Edward. And it's been a pleasure to have been on Edward's podcast a couple of times. And we always have great conversations. So I know today's conversation will be just as impactful and insightful. So good to see you.
You too. How you been?
Doing really well. Busy, crazy busy, but busy is good.
Busy is good. Busy is good. Well, I'm glad to be here. And, again, thank you for, the friendship, staying in touch and, we're just sharpening each other. So glad to be here today and looking forward for this conversation.
Yeah, I think it'll be really powerful. And, we have trauma all around us, right? We've unpacked this in the show where trauma exists in so many different places. And Edward and I share this mutual space of helping organizations function more effectively so that employees can have a better experience through more beneficial and kind, compassionate, empathetic leadership, better employee engagement, and ultimately better results for the organization. So I think we'll have a lot to chat about today. But Edward, why don't you take a few minutes and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this space?
Great, thank you. So Edward E. Moseley Jr., author, speaker, transformational leadership coach. One of the things that I would say that got me into this space of leadership is a bad experience that I went through with the previous supervisor in a previous organization. The supervisor was just, for lack of better words, just very toxic, and the organization was very complicit in allowing the supervisor to continue to work in this workspace. And the environment across the organization was affected by this particular supervisor. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to make sure that once I became a supervisor, when I had the opportunity to change things, those are the type of characteristics that I did not want to have. And I wanted to be able to speak to people that were in those toxic work environments, and I could help them navigate and walk through those environments. And so from a military background, Marine Corps, 22 years, using that as a springboard to the type of leadership style and conversations I like having, that's what got me into this. So really being involved or being affected by a bad work environment and providing the opportunity to help others get out of those type of environments.
Yeah, it is such a profoundly profound experience to go through those and live through those toxic leaders. I have someone very close to me who's recently gone through something very similar, and it's pretty bad when the executive leadership and even HR look the other way and allow these things to happen. So the workplace trauma is very real. What are you seeing right now? Are you seeing any trends at all, or what are you experiencing when you're talking with folks right now?
Now, Danielle, that's a loaded question, and we don't have enough time to talk about it. What I will say is, and I don't want to get political here at all. What I will say is the current administration's stance on the workplace, and some of the initiatives, executive orders that have been sent out to the workforces, especially the federal workers, is definitely taking a toll on the workforce. Several ways, right? When you just look at the workforce as a whole, when you take away the new employees, those probationary employees, that new energy, those new ideas, and you wipe that whole layer away. So if you look at it in 3 layers, they're the first layer, then you have the middle layer and the top layer. So if you wipe that completely away, and then the next layer you take away is those employees that have the resident knowledge, that could be retirement eligible, but they've been in the federal service for some time. You wipe that layer away. Now you have the what's in the middle. And theoretically, we think that, okay, you're getting rid of the fat off the top, you're skimming off the bottom. Now you got this good group of people in the middle. Yeah. But what you did in the manner of that is now you have a workforce that's in a building that's probably 20, 30%, 50%, if at most, capacity. So employees are coming to work in fear, because they're trying to conquer fear and anxiety because if they may be next. Then you have the supervisor lane that they're leading in chaos. They're leading in a place of uncontrolled and uncertainty. Mm-hmm. So the next order could be cut 20% more. And so how do you have a relationship with employees when employees are scared that they may be within the next chop? But then as a leader, how do you come to work and you build that happy environment where you have to tell another employee, hey, we got to cut 20% more? Where is a work-life balance there? How do you manage that? So that's what we're seeing. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. I used to think for many years that the leadership problem that we had in organizations was because we had too much ego. And, once you get promoted and you get that corner office or whatever perks that come along with the promotion and the title and the pay, et cetera, for many years we got to get rid of the ego. And I'm really rethinking this over the past couple of weeks. And maybe it's not as much ego as it is the fear that you were just talking about, right? So we've got this fear that exists within our employee base of our I hate the word staff, but we'll just call it staff because that's what we know. But now we have this level of fear that we're seeing within the managers as well. Most of them do not receive any direction, education. I hate the word training too, but learning on how to be a leader. We just kind of put them into these roles, and we start to see this idea of role compression where they don't know what to do, so they just become better individual contributors. Now you're pushing down and taking away the knowledge, the excitement, the information that the team members can bring to the table, and we start to see people who now are functioning from their shadow side, not from who they authentically are. Yeah. And so I'm really, like I said, kind of beginning to rethink this, is that we have an entire workforce. It's not just our team members that we think of, the staff that are operating and functioning in fear. We've got this whole layer of leadership that is functioning in fear as well. Yeah. And I think we're seeing that now. We've got the Gallup employee engagement survey that came out, and where they have seen now for the first time in 25, 30 years, where they're starting to see manager scores decline as well. Yeah. So have you seen anything? What are your thoughts on that with the managers and fear? Is it fear or is it ego?
Yeah. And so I have not been able to read that particular that assessment, but one of the things that stuck with me for a little bit ago was I really looked at there was a Pew Research study that came out that talked about organizations are transitioning back to a top-down leadership approach. Now, okay, now this is kind of contradictory, right? So you got a lot of organizations that are going back to this top-down leadership approach pyramid, but then you have the directives of cutting down to 20 to 30 to 40% of your top. So so how do you make that adjustment? Who's going to be leading? So if you're cutting off the top layer, and you're cutting the legs off of the table, how does the organization function? It's a culture of chaos. And so what I think part of what you're doing is you're saying, okay, now I do understand. I do understand that, or I should say this: a result of what's going on will be that an employee will come into an organization, and they will only think of the organization for a maybe 5-year period span,
if that.
And so what you have created is a sense of non-loyalty. So I want to come into an organization, I want to get certain qualities, benefits, or whatever whatever your reasoning is, and you're going to leave. So you're going to have that never ending turnover rate, because there's no security anymore. And this just didn't affect the federal service. This also affected contracting. This affected state and local concepts. And so there was a big play here, and now you have the country, because some areas are only able to survive because of certain federal agencies in that environment, in their area. So when you cut that, what you have did is you did more than just affect the federal workforce that may be located in DC. If one of these bases in some little town, if that's their livelihood, and that base closes down because you relocated or you downsized it, you have their economy is completely devastated.
Yeah, definite repercussions across the board from, just more trauma piled on, right? Yeah. Now you've got the trauma of my house, my kids, my car. Yeah, it's, we're seeing this in the private sector too. So it is absolutely a very real thing. The returning to the top-down structure, the flattening of the organization, removing that level of middle management, I don't think has been beneficial at all. We'd like to hear, or we'd like to see the stories of how, we went to this flattened structure and now everyone has ownership. Well, there's a lot of instances where employees don't want to have that degree of ownership. There's oftentimes some liability that comes with that. And then who do you go to when you have a question? Who's there to give you the direction that you need to make a course correction or to change things? So I don't think that the flattened organization has been beneficial at all. How do I feel about the top-down structure? I think it's okay as long as we're having people who are actually leading, right? And have good management. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with the top-down structure, as long as it comes with, let's have a conversation and let's have dialogue and let's open up the avenues of communication within the organization as a whole. But it is an interesting concept, and I wonder if it is a result of kind of that flattening of the organization that we've seen over the past several years, which I think has been a result really of scientific management. I don't know if you've studied or done a lot of reading in scientific management philosophy, but I rail on it with some frequency.
No, I haven't.
The bane of our existence.
What I do kind of feel is when you talk about, you talked about workplace wounds, right? One of the things that just sticks out to me is we have all these different leadership philosophies. We have all these different concepts. But what I do, and we talked about this before, what I do believe COVID was there was a time and place of this 3-year period where we had to, as across corporate, public, private sectors, we had to make a change. And we had never been forced to make a change in the way we do business, the way we lead. We've never made that change. And everything has been, 8 to 5, 9 to 5, come to work 7 days, 5 days a week, endless hours. And people didn't take vacations. They were stressed out. They were, there's been studies that say that the workplace demands have stress levels have went up. You name it. There's been so many negative. I'll give you an example. I did one of my guests on the podcast was a medical doctor, and I've had several on the podcast, and they have basically said, and there's facts out there that show that medical doctors are the most stressed out leaders out there. So the question was, who's taking care of them?
Yeah.
We're going to them because we're stressed out. We're sick. We have wounds, but they have to be Superman and Superwoman. And so who's managing their stress level? How are they functioning? So we go in COVID, we come out of COVID, and there was so much productivity. There was engagement. Hell, our training and development requirements for our workforce went up. We had more people, we had more employees sign up for opportunities for professional development, personal development, career development. They had wait lists. Organizations had wait lists of people in this mixed hybrid type of work environment than they had pre-COVID when everybody was in the office. You want to know why?
Yeah, I experienced the same thing when I was in that role as well.
Because supervisors were not letting their employees go to personal development. So now we're coming out of COVID. We're back in the office. We get the mandate. So organizations get the mandate to come back in the office. Now you come back in the office, and then you question, do we need this building? So you start chopping people. It's a process that is not going to fare well. And only one or two things are going to happen, Danielle. Either A, we're always going to have this flux of workforce, or B, we're going to have to grow again. We're going to have to bump up the workforce again because we're going to have the lack of knowledge and experience.
That lack of knowledge is a huge problem, and in many, many levels. And I've always been very interested in how organizations learn. But we have such siloed operational functions, and we do not have that cross knowledge. And I definitely think that has gotten worse since everybody's been home and super hyper focused on doing what it is that they need to be doing, whether it's for their own self-preservation, whether it's because their manager is demanding a lengthy list of every task that they accomplished in the 8 hours that they were sitting at home, or whether it was because they found the opportunity to have increased growth and development. But I want to go back to the physicians that you mentioned a few minutes ago. So I think last month I had my friend Dr. Christopher Kodama on the show, and he does a lot of work with disruptive physicians. And in fact, this is my current research study right now, is looking at how soon physician leaders will move into leadership fatigue based on what I call cumulative workplace distress. And I bristle when I hear this term for a couple of reasons. When I hear the term disruptive physician behavior, it just makes me bristle. One is because they are so stressed out. We've oftentimes put them into leadership roles without any type of education around what it means to lead. They are experiencing just as much stress, if not more, as you mentioned, than any other profession. And you still hear them talking about COVID. The second reason that it makes me bristle is because they seem to be the only ones who get labeled disruptive. We have disruptive leaders in every organization, and they never get called out, or rarely. Or if they do, there's a litany of excuses as to why.
So I'm going to tell you why this disruptive, what did you say? Disruptive
physician behavior. And I understand that there are ramifications with it, but I get frustrated because we seem to call them out specifically when we don't call anybody else out for bad leadership behavior.
So I'm gonna give you a real true story. So I go into an appointment, and my doctor asked me, well, had already is aware that I am in the HR world. I'm in this HR world in workforce development and things of that nature, right? And one of the things that the doctor asked me was, if they were to put in a request for some time off or to change their work schedule, what is my opinion on how that would play out? Now I'm in my appointment. This doctor's taking care of me, and as you're asking me questions about, what's going on with me and things of that nature, and blood work and stuff like that, you're asking me about how you should submit for some time off. That's very sad to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I had to go into coach mode in my own doctor's appointment. And I just looked at it. I looked at it as an opportunity, but I also looked at it and to realize that there's a place, and there is a need to really look at our workforce across the board. I mean, you want to talk about wounds. We are requiring people to do so much, but we don't care about their emotional state. And I one of the, and I don't want to go down this topic, but you know how we are. When you start talking, and this topic is affecting the academia world, and all across federal employees, but it's filtering its way out because there's a residual expectation that it filters out into normal American lives, right? And one of the things that we noticed in the last few months or so is the removal of DEI out of federal agencies and programs and colleges and universities and things of that nature. Now, I'm not really necessarily going down the term of DEI, but one of the things that has struck odd to me, because I've had these conversations with EEO employees, supervisors, and we're getting caught up. Folks are getting caught up on this term, the diversity piece of it, and they're only looking at it from the perspective of ethnic background and color, and that's not what diversity means. We build teams. We try to build teams that are diverse. We try to build teams to get people from different backgrounds, different age groups, different identities, different experiences, so leaders can make good decisions. But when you interject, you're going to get rid of diversity. What does that really mean? So this goes back into how does a leader lead in these kind of forms, because they can't say certain things. You can't do certain things anymore. Remove all of this type of marketing or these verbiage from this. So I just think it's important to have the conversation about, are we following the wrong narrative of what diversity is in our workplace? And I don't even want to go down the equity and inclusion, because for me as a veteran, as a military veteran, what you're saying to me is, because I am a veteran, you don't care about that anymore. I may have a disability. You don't care about that anymore. So the organization is going through this whole entire, like, what do we care about now? Or who do we care about? But you still want us to do the job, So how do you get the workforce to continue to be engaged and move forward And again, I go back into this class that I'm currently in right now, ethical leadership. What is ethical leadership? And it's taken me to some levels and of thought process and decision making that our organizations are going to have to figure out how to pivot and move forward, and lead and think about people as humans.
Yes.
As humans.
Yeah.
They're not machines.
Yeah.
AI can be AI, but algorithms are algorithms. Big AI is big AI, but you're still going to need humans to input that AI or to interpret the AI, because if something breaks, it's the human. Yeah.
Yeah. So many thoughts around this. My husband, in the work that he does, he maintains big equipment. And I'm talking big equipment, like the size of your house, big equipment. Okay. And I remember him saying to me one time, it feels like we pay more attention to the equipment than we do to the people in the organization. And I thought, that's such a profound statement.
It is.
Because they are constantly, they go in with stethoscopes and listen. Are the bearings heating up? Does it have enough oil? And everything is done on a really regimented schedule of how they're caring for the equipment and making sure it's well maintained. Yet you have people in the organization who haven't had a one-to-one with their manager in 2 years and have no idea what it is that they're supposed to be doing. So that was my initial thought around that. But I would love to see us go into this AI space of saying or recognizing or putting forth this idea that what if we offloaded all the tasky stuff, right? That none of us like to do. Some people like to do tasky stuff. I am not a tasky person myself, but if we gave the tasks that are just constantly weighing down on us. And I go back to healthcare because that's my, where I've spent all of my career has been in healthcare. I think about nurses and physicians alike who are saying we just have the tasks just keep getting piled on us. And that's what's really weighing us down. So we give AI the tasks so that we then can focus on the relationships. Wouldn't that be a wonderful use of AI within the workplace? And really, but then do we have to have primer and refresher courses on how to engage with one another as humans?
Yeah. So I think the answer to that is all yeses, right? And so so I'm finna excuse me. I'm going to tell my age here. This AI piece, right? I'm all in it. I'm all for it. I love it. I understand it. I see the capabilities. I see the limitations. But this reminds me of the cartoon The Jetsons. When everything was, that's all AI. That is all. That's 100% AI. And
Rosie.
I remember the movie Knight Rider, and I think the car name was Kit, but he was talking to a car through the watch, and the car would come and find him. It would, the car could do all type of things, but an example I wanted to use was, and I'm working with an organization, and this is the thought process from the senior leader. So they have been told that from a very, very senior level, they have been told that they have been basically told to grasp the idea of AI. If you're not using it, you're wrong. So that message was put out, right? And it's filtered down to the various commands within this big agency. And one of the areas that the senior level leader wants to cut and replace with AI is project management. So the directive was to not provide any in-person project management development courses anymore, and to replace it with AI. Now, Danielle, I'm scratching my head when this was passed down, and I'm watching this like, okay, I don't think the leader understands project management. How do you do a blanket cut of projects thinking that AI can replace project management. So what are you saying? Are you saying the actual process of managing a project or the people? And so that's where we are. I think this
Yeah.
AI buzz is buzzing so big to where you they're not understanding really what AI can or cannot do.
You know what this reminds me of is Taylorism. Frederick Taylor from the turn of the last century, into the 1900s, and where he wanted to, his idea was to put a time on everything, right? It should take you no more than a minute to go to the shed to grab the shovel and walk back. And it should take you no more than 8 minutes to dig the hole that you need to dig. And it should take you no more than X amount of time, right, to do this, that, and the other thing, which actually was the basis of scientific management principles. And yet it's like, wow, here we are again, going down this path of everything should be structured in a way that doesn't account for the humanness and the things that disrupt an implementation or a schedule. So that's very fascinating. It's like, oh boy, here we are again.
Yeah, and you're right. We're going back, and I think that's where we're stuck. Now, do I think that there is this silver line or this rainbow at the end of the tunnel? This huge. I do. I really do. I think that it is my assumption that we're going to go through this. Now, I want to go back a little bit and say, do I think that there's some cuts and some changes that needed to be done? Yes, I do. I will agree with that. Do I personally know? Have I seen some situations to where there was I don't want to use the word, but that's what they're using: fraud, waste, and abuse? Yeah, I do. But do I think there was a better way to do it? 100% I do. I think there should have been some type of communication across the board to say, hey, we are going to be looking at some of these areas. Because what I think was found out, and I cannot factually prove this, but only based on some agencies have made this statement, is that the find was not to the extent of what was originally thought. And so did we waste time? Did we lose employees? Did we completely explode our workforce and thinking for this small find?
Was the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah, but I do think if we don't take this opportunity to pivot and really start, re-looking at our positions, re-looking at all of our tasks, our responsibilities. Hell, I can tell. I've seen some organizations where their vacancy position requirements have not been looked at for 40 years, 30 years.
Wow. And
so if you're not taking this opportunity to look at in detail, what is the requirement of this position? Because obviously AI wasn't a conversation 40 years ago. And could these particular line items in this position requirement be, to your point, could it be done by some type of computer system? And the last example I'll give is, I was on a call with some various agencies, and at any given time, a vacancy announcement may receive upwards of 40,000 to 50,000 submissions to one particular position.
Oh, wow.
So to your point, as an HR person, how do I, if I'm responsible for this position, how do I drill down from 50 to 40? Because if they open it to U.S. public, if they use that to U.S. public, now you have 40,000, 50,000, maybe more people that may be applying for this position. How do you get from that number to 10
right
to be interviewed?
Yeah, that seems almost not humanly possible.
And that's what's been taking so long to get applicants notified if they were moving to the hiring official or not. So yes, and they were using different AI tools to help them go through resumes and giving keywords and seeing, if this is even now the ethical piece of it is right. The unethical piece of it is if you will be using AI to determine if what a person puts on their resume is not humanly possible or not valid, and you're using AI to do that, that is unethical. But if you're using it to drill down from 50,000 to 100 because of keywords or something like that, then that's a good way. Now you save time. So I do agree with it that way. I do.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly bringing AI into the conversation of ethics certainly changes the whole dynamics of that, doesn't it? And so I think, we have a lot of leaders who have never had a course on ethics. Yeah. I think, once you take on that role, a manager or leader, once you have that badge, that name badge on, your vest or your shirt or your jacket or whatever, real or not, there is an ethical imperative that you have. And I believe that ethical imperative is to care for the people that are reporting to you and not just, shove them off and push them to the side so that you can be more successful in those conversations. So we only have a few more minutes. I love where our conversations always go. We only have a few more minutes. So in the last remaining few minutes that we do have, Edward, where can folks find you? How can they get in touch with you? Yeah. I know you're always on LinkedIn. Yeah,
I've made it really simple. Regardless of the platform you're looking at, if it's Twitter, IG, my webpage, or LinkedIn, it's edwardemoselyjr.com. So if it's webpage, it's edwardemoselyjr.com. If it's LinkedIn, it's Edward Moseley, Edward E. Moseley. So I made it pretty simple. It's just my name. It's my name on all different platforms. So if you Google Edward E. Moseley Jr., you'll see all the platforms that I can be reached on.
Nice. And don't forget about your podcast, the Moseley Method Podcast. As well.
I made that even simple too. So the Moseley Method Podcast is on Apple. And then, I know it's on Podbeam, it's on Apple. But yes, the Moseley Method Mastering Leadership Podcast. And we talk leadership, good, bad, the ugly, of whatever area of expertise you're in. There's always some type of aspect of leadership,
which I've had the pleasure of being part of a couple of times. So I have always appreciated those conversations.
And you may be coming back, so don't be surprised.
Well, always happy to come back.
I got something in store.
Chat more. Yep. So in our last remaining few minutes, I know I just said that a few seconds ago, but I'll repeat myself here. How can, I always ask people how they can have self-compassion for themselves. I'm going to turn that and twist it just a little bit and say, how can our leaders have self-compassion for themselves so that they can take care of themselves so that they can take care of others?
The one thing I will say with that is you have to, one of the things that I do, and I try to make sure that I convey this message to the leaders that I talk to is giving yourself grace, understanding that there are certain things that you cannot control. And I had a leader ask me this question, like, how does he continue to help his employees with all of this chaos going on? I said, you can't. You can't. You have to be as transparent as you can. And he was even being told by his senior level to not even discuss what's going on.
Oh, wow.
So that was even an added pressure. But again, I go back to allow yourself to give yourself some grace. Be as transparent as you can with your employees. I know there's certain things that you can't provide them, but they just want to see that you're human, that you are feeling the same thing, that you're understanding, that you're showing empathy and sympathy in the situation. And I even advise them to start telling your employees to be take this opportunity to look at other opportunities, other places. And it helps them to kind of accept what's going on around them, because we can't control it.
No, we can't. All we can do is control our own actions and responses to things. So, wow. Yeah. Great advice. Grace. I love sharing the idea of grace with folks, and remember that there's only so much that's within your control. So Edward, great to see you. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation today. And, leaders, you have you have a responsibility, whether you have the title of council member, director, whatever your title is. It's not about the title, it's about the action, and the action is to be caring for others around you. So Thank you so much for being part of the conversation today. Dr. Danielle Lord with the Compassion Project, where we are hoping to ignite a compassion evolution. Thanks so much to USA Global TV and Radio and our show producer, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
In a world craving connection, one platform dared to dream bigger. USA Global TV and Radio, a beacon for global voices, authentic storytelling, and elevated listening. Led by visionary Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the journey from a spark to a global force is now captured in one inspiring book. Honored with YouTube's Silver Creator Award for surpassing 100,000 subscribers. Discover the evolution, the challenges, the triumphs, and the unstoppable spirit that created a global movement. Executive producer Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang. Creative director Paul Garcia. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Now an Amazon #1 new release in paperback and ebook. Broadcasting Brilliance, the evolution of USA Global TV and Radio, is inspiring readers around the world. Join the movement that's redefining global media one story at a time.
USA Global TV and Radio, home of the YouTube Silver Creator Award, proudly presents Just the Thing for Your Ring. Introducing the patented Ring Thing. Your premium personal ring holder to keep your ring safe, nearby, and avoid loss.
The Ring Thing just got smarter. Add your logo and an NFC tag that opens to your website with one tap. Waterproof, inner padding, and now a forever business card.
Just the thing for your ring. Scan the QR code seen here to learn more about Ring Thing or place your order. Follow Ring Thing on Instagram at ring_thing_ or go to our website ringthing.com.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA-Global-TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.